Hello, my name is Moises Flores, and today I will be talking about the YMCA bench press test. I will be talking about what is the YMCA bench press test, why is it important, what does it show us, and my results. The YMCA bench press test is a test that can be performed, and all you need is a spotter, a barbell, and a bench. To start, you will load 80 pounds or 35 kilograms of weight total for men doing the bench press test. For women doing the bench press test, 35 pounds total. This is a test of what we call lactic acid threshold. There will be a metronome set to 60 beats per minute, and each time the metronome hits, you will do a repetition. By the time you finish doing these repetitions is when the test will finish. Depending on how many repetitions you get will determine where you are in terms of a percentile. The test finishes when you cannot keep up with the cadence set by the metronome, or you simply fail to perform another rep. Now that I've explained what the YMCA bench press test is, we have to look at why is it important. Well, as I said earlier, there is a concept called lactic acid threshold. That is a threshold where the lactic acid in our muscles begin to pile up to the point that our body cannot take out the lactic acid in our muscles. This causes us to move slower. This causes us to feel what some will call the wall. This is very common in running, especially middle distance athletes and long distance athletes, where they have a buildup of lactic acid where they cannot move as fast as they want. Now, the way that we measure this is by the reps that have been performed. And this is important because not only does it find where your lactic threshold is based on these percentiles given to us, but it also tells us where your fitness needs improving. So this is measuring upper body lactic threshold levels. If you wanted to do something similar for the lower body, you could possibly do a squat. But for right now, we're focusing on the YMCA bench press. And this is important because it not only shows us your lactic threshold, but how fit you really are. Because when you train, you teach your body how to handle more lactic acid in your muscles. As an example, somebody who trains in or near their lactic threshold will do better than somebody who's not fit. And so this gives us a reason to measure this. We want to see where lactic acid production starts and where you can go with the reps. And so I did the YMCA bench press test. Now, when I did it, I was fresh. I had not practiced in a day or two, and I had been able to get 50 repetitions. Now, getting these 50 repetitions with the metronome was difficult, very difficult, as the lactic acid kicked in. But what I think is important here is the kind of training that I have. I'm a sprinter for New Mexico Highlands University, and I had a period of time where my coach would have us, I would consider overtrain, where we would have days where we would train to our lactic threshold and push a little bit farther than that. A lot of days resulted in me wanting to throw up, being pushed to my limit, but this helped in building my lactic threshold because every day my muscles were reaching to that point of lactic buildup, and I had to learn how to exercise through it. It wasn't just running. We did a lot of we did a lot of circuit training. We did a lot of plyometrics, and we still continue to do the same thing. And this has given me a good aerobic base and a good tolerance to lactic acid. This also contributes to VO2 max, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So when I did the bench press, I got 50 reps, as I said, which puts me at the top of, or in the middle to the top of the 90th percentile. And I think that because of my training, this has helped. And I also think that I do what is called VO2 training. VO2 training is called the volume oxygen training. VO2 is your volume of oxygen that you have in your muscles. And the max is at a point of maximal physical exertion, how much oxygen is in your muscles. And this kind of training my coaches have us do. So my background in this is that I am a sprinter, but I used to be a middle distance athlete, and I used to train with a lot of volume where I ran a lot of miles, where I would run in higher elevations. And because of this, my body has adapted to that, and I am able to run longer without feeling the lactic acid build up. So, what can we conclude from this? Now that we have talked about my results, now that we've talked about what the importance of it is, what is lactic acid, now that we've covered everything, why is this important again, and what can we learn, and excuse me, and what can we learn from this? So what we can learn from this is that it tests your lactic acid, and it is a good test to apply to somebody who you want to see where their lactic threshold is, whether they are fit, whether they are not fit, whether they're unfit. We can see where they're at. And this is just one of many tests. There are other tests that test aerobic capacity. There are tests that measure the time that it takes you to run half a mile. There are multiple different tests that show you different things, and this is just one part of a series of tests that you could give to a future possible client. And these tests show you different things. Like this one shows you, as we've said earlier, lactic acid tolerance, right? Because everybody has a point at which they begin to build up lactic acid faster than the body can dispose of it in the muscles. And as an athlete, this can also be a good measuring point to use. If you have an athlete, as an example, who is a middle distance runner, and you want to test the lactic acid, or let's say a rower, you might want to test the lactic acid in their upper body and then design a program based on the results that you get. Now, of course, you want to test this multiple times just to make sure that there is a consistency between those tests. Because anybody, if they're feeling good, can get a higher score. And when they're not feeling good, maybe they got poor sleep, can get lower scores. But overall, you want to know where they're at. So when you do these tests, it's testing upper body lactic acid threshold, and it gives you a place to start, and it helps you build a foundation from there. My name is Moises Flores, and I today went over the importance of building a good lactic acid threshold using the YMCA bench press test. And why is it important? So thank you all for today for listening, and have a great day.